it's not completely unlike the way we do it elsewhere around the world. I mean, we have Americans that get stranded in countries all the time, and we do everything we can to try to facilitate safe passage.
The Biden administration defending leaving Americans in Taliban territory, insisting that the terror group will actually help them get out.
Here to react, Army veteran who served in Afghanistan and Fox and Friends Weekend co-host Pete Hegseth. Pete, thank you as always for your service. My first question to you is, the president says that he takes responsibility for the decision, but respectfully disagrees this could have been done in a more orderly manner. Do you think this could have been done in a more orderly manner where we wouldn't have people stranded in Afghanistan?
Could it have been done in a less unorderly manner? I mean, could it have been done more chaotically? I don't think so. And that's why no one has the feeling that Joe Biden had at the podium yesterday that this was extremely successful. I think that's why he yelled at us the whole time. Why don't you get that this fiasco is actually a success, extremely successful? And then he'd look into the camera and say things like this. Bottom line, we were able to get 90% of Americans that wanted to come out of the country. Excuse me? Is that the motto? Leave only 90% behind, and the rest of you're stranded, except we won't say that, but don't worry. There's a strongly worded UN resolution out there that I'm sure the Taliban will adhere to that will ensure you get your safe passage. It's the contradictions of the entire event. It's the way in which he walked to the podium and sold us the same old talking points, and then built a straw man as if he was the only one that wanted to get out of Afghanistan, and this was the only way to do it. We all wanted to get out, but the only way to get out is to do so on our terms and strongly. And now, and I'm sure you've reported it this morning, and now we know that he knew. He knew how quickly this was going to descend. He had the conversation with the Afghan president, who said, hey, I don't know if the perception's real or not real, but you need to do something about it. Joe Biden didn't do what he needed to do when he needed to do it, and he either ignored advice from generals that told him to do otherwise, or the generals gave him bad advice and he continued with it. Either way, the buck stops with him.
Let's listen to Joe Biden following 9/11. Here's his thoughts on Afghanistan. Listen.
We cannot and certainly will not walk away from 7 million displaced, desperate Afghans surviving on little more than grass and locust. I'm reluctant to use the word nation building, but if we leave Afghanistan in chaos, it will be another time bomb waiting to explode.
I'm sure when Peter Doocy asks about this, they'll do some wordplay there in the White House saying how he didn't say what he said back in 2001. But based upon what I heard, didn't Joe Biden literally do what he said we shouldn't do back in 2001?
Of course he did. I'll give him a little bit of grace here. A lot of us thought a lot of things about Afghanistan in 2001 that once we went there, we were mugged by reality and understood the limitations, myself included. But what you can't do now is lie about the reality there. And the ending of Joe Biden's speech yesterday, he said, the future, let's look to the future. The future is safer because of these actions. And that's where every American looks at the TV sideways and says, really? We have a legitimized terror state in the Taliban with all of our weapons and with the same relationships with al-Qaeda and Haqqani that they had before. And China, oh, by the way, happy to enable them to be a thorn in our side in the ways necessary. So unfortunately, and for a vet who spent a year of my life as a part of that effort, you don't want to believe it's worse than it was before. But right now, except for our ability to strike with drones, which has become far more sophisticated, the situation there is not better than it was before 9/11/2001.
Pete, I've been following the story with one of your interpreters and his family, and it's just been so touching to see, so many veterans out there understand how important these interpreters are. And I think for a lot of us, we didn't fully understand that until these last few weeks. And the fact that you have this report about Joe Biden's Afghan interpreter who helped rescue him in 2008, he wasn't his interpreter, he helped rescue him in 2008, is still there and begging to get out. What do you make of this?
There are some defining moments of crises, right? One of them is Marine Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller demanding accountability, yet he's the only one that's fired. This is one of those. Joe Biden says we'll leave no one behind, U.S. citizens and allies, yet Joe Biden leaves the very ally that was there for him personally in 2008 in the mountains of Afghanistan when he was stranded on a helicopter and a unit had to go out and get him. And Muhammad, then 36 years old, volunteers to drive through the snow in Taliban country to go get 3 senators, one of which would be a future president. And when you read about what his fellow vets said about him, one vet said, if you can only help one Afghan, choose Muhammad. He earned it. The haste with which we left is the reason why Muhammads are left behind, one of which saved the life of the President of the United States. It didn't have to be this way. Yes, we airlifted hundreds of thousands, but we did so in a hasty manner, not vetting many of them, and we left guys like Muhammad behind.
It just gives me chills hearing you say that.
And again, to my point earlier, Pete, if this guy saved your life and you're the president, wouldn't he be #1 on the list? Unbelievable.
You think so?
Gotta let